today. I'm looking at the Yarrawonga radar. Jenny actually makes a good point on the text from Kyneton saying, when's the radar going to be available? It seems the Melbourne radar's down. Jenny, if you go to the Yarrawonga radar, you can bang that out to 500 kilometres, which will give you at least a sight of what it's looking like across the entire state of Victoria right now. But yeah, it seems to be that line down the centre of Victoria going east, so still a bit more rainfall for the eastern half of the state today.
Yes, indeed.
And warnings-wise, anything even apart from flood warnings we should be aware of?
Look, there is that severe thunderstorm warning that is out for parts of the central, north central, west and south Gippsland districts mainly. Also does briefly get into the northern country, and that's probably the main one. If there are any other thunderstorm warnings about the northeast later, then we will issue those.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for that.
No worries, bye.
Matthew Thomas, Senior Forecaster at the Weather Bureau, taking you through the forecast there. Jenny also says the Campaspe's broken its banks at Karlsruhe. Thank you very much for that information too, Jenny. Good to know that. Keep the texts coming, 0467 842 722. And I'll just repeat, just before we move on to a few other stories here on the Country Hour, there are those watch and act flood warnings for the Loddon River from Lanakuri to Loddon Weir. Moderate flooding likely from this afternoon. We heard from Colleen earlier in the program about just how high that water is, with water over roads in some areas there too. There's also a moderate flood warning for the Avoca River. Mine is expected along the Avoca at Charlton Town from late Friday evening, with moderate flooding possibly developing from late Saturday. There's also a watch and act for the Hume of Hume Weir, which is down to Tokemore as well. That watch and act is in place there. Moderate flooding occurring at Corowa as the Keewa water is coming into the upstream areas. A lot more is being released from Hume Dam at the moment by the Basin Authority and other river managers, and so there is now a moderate flood warning downstream of Lake Hume with a watch and act with that too. So we'll keep you updated if anything changes by the end of this program. Otherwise, you've got Drive on your radio this afternoon, and any actually ABC local programming. As the situation changes, we will update you. You're listening to the Country Hour. In the meantime, keep those texts coming to help tell us what's going on. It's 18 to 1. We will talk about other things though, where orange growers are dumping hundreds of tonnes of fruit on the ground with downgraded quality, rising input costs and decreased demand, leaving them with few options to send their fruit. Griffith and District Citrus Growers Association Chair Vito Mancini says it's the worst season they've seen in around 40 years, with only 5 to 10% of their fruit making supermarket specifications due to the wet conditions.
Our inputs have gone so far up, and when you've got La Nina coupled with it where quality is so far down, that little bit of fruit that is what the consumer is expecting, it's very hard to harvest that economically. So put it in figures, a lot of people this year may have only 5 or 10% of their fruit that is at the levels that the supermarkets are expecting. But to try and harvest 5 or 10% of your orchard when you've got the other 90-95% sitting there in the same space, it's uneconomical. So it's costing us maybe 40 to 50 cents a kilo to grow it, of the whole 100% of the fruit. But when you're only expecting to get that value out of that 5 or 10% to cover that cost, it's just not working. So a lot of growers are either letting their